Hello everybody and welcome back to Bria Loves. On this today's episode of Bria Loves, I want to talk about weight. I want to see if you can guess it. So I'm going to play a little song for you. Let's see if you can guess what it is. Have you guessed it yet? Let's try one more time. Very nice. So if you haven't guessed what it is yet, here is another very strong clue. Have you guessed it yet? Yes, we are talking about The Lion King today. It is literally my favorite movie. It's easily top 3, and it's not number 3. Okay, we're talking about The Lion King today. I love this movie so much. I've loved it since it came out. It hit the theaters, and I want to say it was like 1997. So I was like, you really young at the time, but it's a childhood favorite, and kids still love The Lion King to this day. So that shows you how great of a movie it is and how big of an impact that it has. And I want to talk about it because I really first of all, I wanted to do something for my younger audience that is watching. I love the kids. I love being able to share my insight on the things that the kids are into, and something that is just fun for the whole family, or just kind of interesting for the whole family to kind of look at again. So I'm gonna use my coloring book to kind of help me through the story of The Lion King, so I can remember all the details. But just like on this cover of this Lion King coloring book, the story is about Simba. We know the story, and I feel like if you're really paying attention to The Lion King, you'll try to see yourself in these characters, in each of these characters at some point. And so I think for me, what really helped me to understand what was so special about this movie was just being able to see myself in each and every character, regardless of whether it was Timon and Pumbaa, or whether it was Zazu, or even Scar. And so I wanted to talk a little. This will be a longer video, so if it's too much for you, I'm so sorry. You just pick it, drop in, drop out as you feel. But I wanted to give a full detailed description of this from my experience, or from my perspective. So Simba, I like to look at Simba because Simba for me is the central character of the entire story. And if you think about your own life, you're Simba in your own life. You remember when you were born, vaguely. You were the center of your parents' attention when you were born, hopefully. But you understand your world to be a certain way based on that experience. Some people don't identify themselves as Simba. I do. And because of that, it gives me a lot of different perspectives. So I want to talk about myself as Simba. So Simba, we got to see Simba as a kid. We got to see his best friend's Nala, who was born to Mufasa and Sarabi. Mufasa and Sarabi. And then we got this really great wise baboon named Rafiki, who presents this beautiful Simba to the rest of the community, rest of the family, rest of the world. And Rafiki, he's been there from the beginning, so he knows who Simba is. He knows who Simba's people are. He knows, okay? And that he was named Simba. So Simba just had all these great, I'm looking through my coloring book as I go, so it's helping me. So Simba would reign over his father's kingdom one day. So this is Simba's purpose. This is what Simba has been given as a purpose, as something to live for. And I think that what is really important as and what is really crucial to a child's upbringing is being able to have something to live for, being able to have purpose. When you're able to find your purpose young, and you're able to start young to prepare yourself for that purpose, it allows for you to be able to work towards your goals. Like for me, for example, I started dancing when I like to say I was dancing out the womb, but I started taking dance classes when I was about 3 or 4 years old. And, you know, after I started dancing, people started saying, she's an amazing dancer. She should do this. She should do this for a long time. I stopped dancing. I stopped dancing in the studio, and then people were still talking about me dancing. So I got back into it. I felt like that was my purpose, was to dance. And so I'm still dancing to this day. So Simba has purpose. I don't want to talk too much about myself, but Simba has purpose, and he's going to be the king of Pride Rock one day. And Nala is his friend that he has met along this journey. Nala knows who Simba is as a cub. She knows him before all of the turmoil, all of the crazy stuff that happens. And they get in trouble together. They take risks together. She's down for him, okay? And everybody needs somebody like that in their life. Sometimes it's going to be a brother or a sister. Sometimes it's going to be a best friend. Sometimes it's going to be somebody that's just close in age, just up here. But everybody needs somebody like that, especially when you have purpose, because you want to have somebody that's going to help you to walk your journey. And we're going to get back to Nala in a little bit. But they used to hang out together. And so they're doing all this hanging out and taking care of each other. And the women, Sarabi and all the other mother cubs or female cubs, lionesses, if you would, they have a very particular role in the Lion King as well. And if you ever see yourself as a very more feminine figure, if you see yourself as a mother, as a daughter, as a sister, you want to take a really close look at the women, the female lions in the Lion King, because they play a very particular role. And I want to go back there one day, and I will. But today is just the overview. And it says in this coloring book, it says, but there was one lion who did not care about the other lions. Simba's uncle, Scar, wanted Mufasa's kingdom for himself. And I want to stop here for a second, because we're definitely going to dig deeper into Scar's character as well. But we're just going to gloss over Scar, because we're going to say that Scar is going to be your hater. Okay? Scar is the one who in this story, it says he didn't care about the other lions. He didn't. He cared about himself. Very self-oriented, very me-oriented. And it's very dangerous to be very me-oriented when you live in a community, because when you live in a community and you're only about self, it can be harmful to other people. And so that is Scar. He wanted Mufasa's kingdom, and we saw Scar as he was the evil character in the story, right? But nonetheless, he had some little lackeys, as I like to call them, the hyenas. The hyenas, they are what you call followers, okay? Followers are just gonna run up behind whoever they can get to give them some attention. Okay, the hyenas don't have, if you look at the food chain in The Lion King, the hyenas are not very high up on the food chain. They get whatever's left after the lions who are at the top of the food chain, after the lions have gotten what they needed to get in order to take care of their families and their community. And so they are the followers. They follow behind Scar, because Scar does the bare minimum to keep them happy, by feeding them whatever's left over. They feed it off the elephants, because they, and that's another problem. We can get into them a little bit later too. But they are the haters, okay? And so they do whatever. They're the followers too. So they're also haters. They end up being just like Scar, because Scar is wanting to take over for himself, not for the better of all the people, just for himself. And so, you know, they're hanging out. Simba's hanging out. He knows who the hyenas are. He doesn't really know who they are at first, but he finds out because he's going into places that he shouldn't go. He went to the elephant graveyard with Nala, and that's how he finds out what's the other side of Pride Rock that he doesn't really find out too much about, where his father told him not to go. The biggest thing for all my children out there, if you are being told by your parents not to do something, it is to protect you. Always listen when you're told not to do something. It's usually to protect you. So if you're being disobedient, if you're not listening to what you are supposed to do, then it can be very dangerous for you. And like it was for Simba. Simba got caught by the hyenas, and this was his first time meeting those hyenas. And when he got caught by those hyenas, they scared him. He thought he's a big lion. He's a lion. He comes from a lion tribe. He is protected, but he wasn't, because his father was not around, and Scar was not going to protect him, because Scar knew that if Simba would get out the picture, then he would be next in line to be the king. And so he gets backed into a corner. Simba gets backed into a corner where he basically doesn't know what to do. He's basically like, I am messed up royally. But Mufasa to the rescue, always taking care and being mindful of where his child is, being mindful of if his child is not where he's supposed to be, going and looking for him and being there for him. So he came, rescued him, and he was very, very vicious, but he was gracious. He did not kill the hyenas. He didn't hurt them. All he did was make sure that that he was able to get his son back and restore the order of the way things should be in their community. And so he teaches him a lesson. He takes him out to the stars and he teaches Simba a lesson, Mufasa. Mufasa teaches Simba a lesson. He teaches him about the stars, and he says that if you look up at the stars, the great kings of the past look down from there and guide you. And remember, he also says, remember that I will always be there to guide you. And Simba said he will remember. So this was something that was really needed, because Simba didn't know what was to come. Mufasa didn't necessarily know what was to come either, but Mufasa knew that eventually the day would come. And so he had to prepare his son. And so Scar, this is where it starts to takes a turn for the worse. Scar, he doesn't see that he's going to be able to become the king with Simba and Mufasa in the way. So he sets up a plan to get Mufasa out the way, and he set him up. The plan almost failed because Mufasa is strong and he's very courageous. But the stampede took over, and Scar did a final very bonehead thing to do, and he pushed him back down into the stampede, and Mufasa lost his life. And so he wanted Simba to be in the stampede as well, but Simba, he got out. And when he got out, Scar, being the cruel, selfish person that he was, instead of him just he had to finish the job. Let's say it like that. Scar had to make sure he finished the job. So he told him to run, and then he sent his little followers, his little lackeys, after Simba to try to kill Simba. He told him. And so he told them to kill him. And so they went after him, but they didn't catch him, thankfully. Because, thank God. If you are covered by your Father up in heaven, you don't ever got to worry about, you don't have to ever worry about your protection. You always going to be protected. So Simba was protected. But before he told him to leave, he shamed him. He told him, if it weren't for your father, if it weren't for you, your father would still be alive. He turned the story on him, even though he knew that he was the one who killed Simba's father. He tried to shame Simba into believing that it was his fault. And Simba believed the lie. And so when he told him to run and to never return, he did. Simba ran. And when he ran, those hyenas were after him. But he ran and ran and ran until he couldn't run anymore. And the Simbas, did I say the Simbas? The hyenas were after him. And he ran until he couldn't run anymore. And that's when he meets Timon and Pumbaa. And Timon and Pumbaa are your good friends, your safe haven. If you've ever read about the Underground Railroad, we'll just call them the allies or the Quakers that are at the safe house that's on the other side. They are the people that are going to help you in your journey. But the difference was they didn't help him along his journey. They found them somebody that was going to protect them in their own lifestyle, because it's a lion. So if we get this lion to be on our side, then we don't have to worry about anybody else hurting us or harming us. So they got something out of the deal too. But in the meantime, they nurtured Simba and they protected him and they taught him their ways, and he learned Hakuna Matata, no worries, to let go of the fears, to let go of the anxieties, to let go of all of the sadness, and to just enjoy his present life. And that's what he did. And he did that until he grew into a full-grown lion. We saw Simba transform from the cub to the full-grown lion. And in the midst of doing all that carefree living, taking it easy, he ran into Nala. Nala came looking for her friend. She did not forget about him. And she knew that if Simba was not there, then he had to be out there. That's a lie. She did not know that he was still alive. She thought that he was gone too when Mufasa passed. But she was out looking for food. And so she almost got Timon and Pumbaa for food. But Simba protected them and then ran into Nala. And when Nala and Simba reconnected, she told her friend of what's going on back at home. She told her friend that they needed help, and she reached out to him for help, and he was not willing to go back. A lot of times in our lives, when we get really comfortable with the way things are, we've moved away from all the hurt, we've moved away from all the places that cause us pain, we don't want to go back, and we leave. We neglect our family, we neglect our calling, our purpose, because we get comfortable. And so Nala came back and she reminded him of his purpose. And in the midst of her bringing him back, Rafiki runs into Simba. And Rafiki also helps remind him of his purpose, because Rafiki was also there when Simba was born. And so when Rafiki brings him back, what he reminds him is the words that his father told him when he taught him that one special lesson. Remember who you are, and remember that you are the true king. Remember your purpose. And so once Simba did that, he ended up he came back home. He took on those hyenas. He took on Scar. He realized that he was not the reason why his father had passed away, and he was able to rid himself of that shame, and the circle of life was able to continue. What I love so much about this story is that it helps us to understand life, helps us to understand death, and it helps us to understand all the in between. We as people, especially those of us who have families, have a very, very, very important job to protect our families. We have an important job to live out our purposes, and we have a very important job to do what's right at all times. And I think that The Lion King does a beautiful job of describing and illustrating what each of those roles looks like in a community, and what each of those roles looks like in a family, and what that role looks like for self. Because for me, I don't have a family of my own yet, but I'm still a part of a family. And with that being said, that helps me to figure out where I fall in the circle of life, in the food chain, and all of the things. And it helps me to remind myself of who I am, what I'm here to do, and allows for me to constantly be focusing on doing that every single day that I wake up. So I encourage you to go back and rewatch The Lion King, whichever version that you like, and then see yourself. And if you don't see yourself in the very first one, maybe try watching the second one or 1.5, and just try to see if you can find out which character you are. And I want you to come back and tell me which character you think you are in The Lion King, and comment below which character you think you are, even if you have more than one character that you think you are. And I would love to hear it. And remember, Bria loves you. See you next time.